All right, let's call this tax rate hearing meeting to order. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion? Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any statements from patrons about the tax rate hearing?
Surprisingly, no.
All right, we need to approve our tax rate for the 2020 and 2021 school year. You have anything to add, Mr. Webster?
Obviously, we have not gone to the taxpayers and asked for an increase, so the tax rate's the same as it was last year and the year before, and probably the 20 years before that, so nothing has changed with it.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve the tax rate.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion, a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Need a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay. Now, sorry, get to the right meeting. And we're good to go, right, Shannon? All right. So now we'll call this the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, August 18th. Sorry, get another agenda here. I'd like to call it to order, and I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So,
Can I have a second?
yep, second.
Second from John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Like for everyone to please stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And as we always do, we like to share good things that are going on in our school district. So if anybody has anything they'd like to share, please do.
I've got two things that I would like to share. The first thing, if any of you were able to make it, which I know some of the board members were able to make it to the back to school convocation, I would just like to give a big shout out to Derek Limback and his Red Regiment band. They did a phenomenal job. The kids did an amazing job, and I just wanted to recognize that. Also, the cheerleaders and Miss Crammy for the help that they gave us during that time. To me, it's a powerful moment and a great moment when we get kids in there that early and get them going to welcome staff back. Also, I'd ask Chief Jones to come tonight because I wanted to kind of thank him for the support that the police department has given us. Back to school is not necessarily his favorite time because things get a little bit hectic. But last year, especially as we're trying to keep people off buses, they had to devote an officer there the entire time for that. So I just wanted to call you in and sincerely thank you and the department for being willing to help out the school whenever we need you guys.
We look forward to getting back with you guys.
Awesome. Hopefully the traffic is a little bit better this year. We'll find out. But thank you, Chief.
Anyone else?
I had a good thing to share as well. We had talked about the teacher retention and recruitment grants, and I had reached out to universities, and both Missouri S&T got right back with me, and so did Missouri Baptist University, and they're both excited to collaborate with us in our efforts.
Good. Awesome. Anybody else? Okay. All right, and we're going to move on to the statements from patrons. Before we get up and have speakers, I'd like to just go over kind of our policy on how patrons speak for this. We don't usually have very many patrons, so we'll just go over this policy. So according to policy BDDH1, the board has established the following rules for public comments. You must sign up to speak. You are allowed 3 minutes to speak your comments. There's a maximum of 20 minutes total. So if you speak and you have over 6 people and you hit the 20-minute mark, then we're done, okay? No individual will be allowed to speak more than once, and only items on our posted agenda may be discussed, and this is not a dialogue. You are allowed to give your input, and we will take it under consideration, but we will not be conversing back towards you, just so you know, okay? All right, Mr. Reinhardt, do we have any patrons?
Person we have is Kimberly Murray.
Okay.
Hi, I've been doing a lot of research on this. I have some articles. The National Health Director admits school mask mandates are not based on data of COVID's effect on children, but rather on policy and funding. Face masks pose serious risks to the healthy Citizens for Free Speech. I've known several friends that have gotten bacterial pneumonia from wearing them. It's also very bad for young children with oxygen levels. It affects their learning and speech development. They're not able to see people's faces, and it's very, it's not helpful. Everybody that I know that got COVID was wearing face masks like it was their religion. So face masks do not work. Fauci is, and the National Health Department is bought off by Big Pharma. So we need to stand up for our rights, and our children need to have a free education. My Body, My Choice. Rolla Public School is not even mandating masks for young kids. Cuba Public School is not mandating masks for kids. So I don't like where this small town is going. We need to have parents' rights. If the parents want to have their kids wear a mask, they can, but it shouldn't be mandated. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Murphy.
And we have Paige Gardner.
Paige?
So I'm not going to read this because it basically just sums up what she said, but I'm going to ask that the board takes this and reads it, puts some thought into it, and that's what I got on the mask mandate. So
Yes, please. Thank you. And I'll get copies made and passed to all the board members, okay?
Sean Murphy.
I got a PowerPoint for you.
All right. Anybody got a, I don't have any way. The,
So anyway, I did an analysis and I took data from Johns Hopkins University, the Center for Disease Control, and the U.S. Census data, and I wish I would print it out, but I don't know if you're aware right now, there's all the big hype about COVID. The current mortality rate is 0.6% right now, which is the lowest it's ever been, despite all of the massive fear porn that's been coming out from all directions. It's from the 0 to 17 age group, the COVID has a mortality rate of 1/2 of that of flu for that age group. And so your job as the school board, your job is to represent the welfare of the children. If you are representing anything else, you're doing your jobs wrong. So seeing as how the COVID is half as dangerous for children in the ages of public school as the flu, despite all of the propaganda being projected on us by all sorts of media, your job is to respect the welfare of the kids and to allow parents to choose whether they want their kids to be masked or not. It's you go based on numbers, go based on data, trust the science. There's science statistically proving that this is not nearly as dangerous for the age group that you guys are instructed to watch over as people have you led to believe. All of it is harmful to the kids if you don't give a choice. So have a good one.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy, if you email me that PowerPoint, I will share it.
Okay.
Just T. Webster at STK Schools.
You got a card?
Upstairs.
Okay.
I don't have one with me.
Anybody?
Is there anybody else signed up?
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to presentations. We're going to receive an update from the Health Department. Mr. Patrick?
Good evening, Board. I'm here today to just kind of chat with you a little bit about the current conditions in our jurisdiction, kind of the numbers that we're seeing, and to be available to answer any questions that you guys might have. So since about the 1st of July, we saw a very significant and increased spike in cases, where from the second week in February up until that time, cases were around between 5 and 2 cases a day. So, over that time period, very low. We were really happy to see that. And then, of course, Delta hit. So Delta was discovered in Missouri in May 10th. And, obviously it very quickly came to predominance, and now it is attributed to over 95% of the COVID cases in the country. So the Delta variant in general is much more transmissive. It comes with a significant increase in hospitalization, and is affecting younger people. So the average age of hospitalizations reported from Phelps Health has dropped by about 20 years. So we're kind of during the previous spikes earlier in the year, the severity, the real severe cases of the disease typically happened in much older patients. Now we're seeing that in youngers. And that we're seeing that reflected at the health department in the average age of deaths. And so they're also about 20 years on average younger than previously in the spike. So over the last 2 weeks or so, we're starting to see cases kind of level out, and even we are getting some decreases. So in the last 7 days, we've had about 28 new cases a day, which is still relatively high, but we're hopeful overall that represents a true decrease in cases, and that we're kind of starting to see this thing flag off again. But we're going to remain optimistic. Obviously, we've got, or cautious, I should say. We got a lot of big things coming up. All the schools reopening, Missouri S&T. There's still several, big festivals and things of that nature, and so we're going to continue to kind of monitor cases and keep an eye on it. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Patrick, before the board has a chance to ask some questions, I wanted to go ahead and ask some to you. Nobody in the room might know. I've recently, yesterday, DESE had given an update, which is what I'm passing out to you guys. It's the update of masking and quarantining and what schools should do during COVID. Within that, they provided a nice little flow chart to try and simplify things for people as they read it. Have you had a chance to look over this?
Yep.
Okay. My question, and something that truly threw a wrench for me, and I want to make sure, obviously we've been communicating on what we should do throughout this entire thing, throughout the entire summer. I've recently seen this document posted and said that it had the support of the health department to move away from masking. Does the health department still think that we should mask? What is the health department's recommendation, I guess, for us to review?
Absolutely. So the health department's stance is that school districts should follow the guidance from CDC, DESE, and DHSS. As you go through this document, which is very much in line, so when you go through those different guidance documents, I would add in, there's also one from American Academy of Pediatrics and one from the ABC Science Consortium, which is posted on the DESE website as well. All of them are very consistent in that children in school, people in school in general, should mask when community transmission is high. And so there's been a lot of kind of different talk about this document in general, but it's really very straightforward, and that I think everybody's position is that the best place for kids is in school, and that's the kind of thing that this guidance is allowing for. So very similar as to the case last year. If students are masked, if everyone involved in an exposure, both the infectious person and any close contacts, are masked and are farther than 3 feet apart, they're completely exempt from quarantine. That means they can continue with sports and academics, so it's actually a little bit easier than it was last year. Now, this document gets a little bit more confusing because then they break that down and they say, well, if they're both masked and they're within 3 feet of each other for longer than 15 cumulative minutes in a 24-hour period, then they get an exception. They can continue to come to school for academics while wearing a mask, but the other stuff, the athletics and the extracurriculars need to stop for the quarantine period. And so that's really the only change, is that actually there's a loosening. And when you look at the CDC document or guidelines, that's also very consistent in that if everyone involved in an exposure is masked and farther than 3 feet apart, they are not required to be designated a close contact. So that's kind of a big shift right there, and it's a really good thing. That guidance is based upon studies that were done right here in Missouri from a doctor out of Washington University, Children's Mercy out of Kansas City, and I guess with help from the CDC. And so, based upon that study, that guidance has gone nationwide. So it's very well supported. There's a lot of different studies that back that up, and that's the stance of the health department, is that you guys as the Board of Education, you guys have the power and to deviate from guidance documents. However, you also have the responsibility for the consequences that come from it on both sides. And so you guys are the decision makers. The health department is not here to tell you this is what you have to do. What we're here to do is say this is the guidance, right? It is consistent across multiple scientific organizations. These are people with PhDs and many, many years in infectious disease prevention. They have very solid science and data backing up the things that they're saying and the reasons why they're making the recommendations that they're making in their guidance. And that's above my pay grade, guys. I'm not a PhD. So we recommend that you guys follow that.
So just to clarify, if a child is properly masked and they come into contact with somebody that tests positive, that child that was properly masked, as long as they are not showing symptoms, can still come to school.
As long as the person who is also positive is also masked.
Correct.
So yes.
So if our children are masked, the only reason they would have to stay home is if they are showing symptoms or test positive.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So Patrick, what would happen if, and I don't know if I really don't know the answer to it. I
Sure.
don't know if it changes it. So
Yeah.
give me both scenarios. What happens if positive kid is masked, unpositive kid's not masked, vice versa as well?
So the guidance says is that both have to be masked, and so if a person is unmasked and the positive person is masked, the people that are unmasked would have to quarantine, but anybody that was a close contact who was masked would not. However, if the positive is not masked, everyone has to quarantine who is a close contact. It doesn't matter if they're wearing a mask or not, and there's really good reason for that. And it's because you hear a lot of talk about how these don't work, right? These are not considered protective. Well, these more so than the cloth face mask that everybody is using now. So there's a range, right? So if you're talking about an N95 respirator, those filter out 95%. We've talked to respiratory therapists who were in proper PPE the entire time, all the time, working with COVID patients. They still get COVID. It's only effective to a point. Right? It's not a magic force field that keeps you perfectly protected. It's a layered protection, right? And so there's different levels of protection, but the thing that masks overall are really good for is source control. So that if you're the one that's sick and you're hacking, all that stuff gets contained. It goes from a space way out here to right here. And it greatly reduces transmission, and we've seen that in study after study after study.
Anybody else have any questions?
So to verify, if a positive person does not have a mask on, then it quarantines everybody.
Anyone who meets criteria for close contact. And so sit within 6 feet for 15 cumulative minutes in a 24-hour period. So that if a person has 3 5-minute conversations within 6 feet, then that would make them a close contact.
Anybody else? Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Thank
you guys
you.
have a good day.
Okay, our next presentation is the Title I and SPED program lists for the 2021-22 school year. Dr. Williams, take over.
Well, these are our most updated list of our title staff and then our special education staff, both at Great Circle and here in the district. So we are sharing that information with you as we do annually. Do y'all have any questions about it?
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second his motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda is approved. So on to discussion topics. And Mr. Webster is going to talk about the emergency leave for staff.
Obviously, as the start of school is coming up, we need to keep this into consideration. There's a couple documents that I've posted on there. The first document is the board resolution on COVID-19 that we used last year. The Board of Education did adopt that last school year. The first semester, it was under COVID relief, and the government funded that for us. Second semester, the government did not fund that, but we chose as a district to keep that going. The second document there, and it's a little bit smaller, so you might have to zoom it in. Our schools in the area, we've been getting together and just looking at and seeing if we're consistent with what we are doing. So the decision that we have to make is, are we going to extend if staff is quarantined or if staff is positive with COVID? Do they use their personal leave days, or we as a district, are we going to provide them additional days for that? That's ultimately what we're looking at here. The second one, you can see what other school districts are doing. Minus about 2 or 3 of those, they're not extending those days. This is a very sensitive subject. It's one that I don't want to have. It's one that you guys don't want to have either. But reality is, when we are in a situation where we don't know how many people could get quarantined or how many people could get COVID, the financial side of that is we don't know what that could cost the district if we extend this. There are pros and cons. Pro, if we mask people, we're not going to quarantine people. If we don't mask people, obviously they're open for quarantine. So that plays into effect in what we're thinking as well with extending this. Also looking at it for adults, there is a vaccine available. So you have to look at that as well. Are we in a position where we say, you've got a choice, you've made a decision, or are we at a point where we're not there? That's kind of the discussion that I wanted to have with you guys about that. Obviously, this is later in to approve in a direction later on. My recommendation is that we do not extend the COVID days just due to the financial side for the district. Ultimately, that'll be a decision that you guys make. I just wanted to fill you in and have good discussion about it before we get there. Are there any questions or any clarifications that you guys want to talk about before we get past this?
What is our vaccination rate among staff? Do you know?
I don't know. We can't legally ask that. We could send out a survey and see if people are willing to disclose that to us. And speaking with other school districts and myself included, I don't know that that's a bridge I necessarily want to cross with our staff, just because it's a fine line. I don't want to get in people's business if they don't want us in their business. So I can't tell you that.
Are we still going to continue to make vaccines available on campus?
So one of the requirements through DESE this year to receive ESSER money, so government money to run our school, one of those things is that we will at least send out opportunities. In the past, as in last year, we did have a pharmacy actually come here. Will we do that again? Sinks actually called a couple weeks ago and asked, but then ran short on some people, so they're unable to make it on the date that they were originally going to do that. We will, at the minimum, keep sending out opportunities for people to do that. The intention is to keep them at the middle school and high school during open house tomorrow. Staff members can go get vaccinated if they want, as well as any child that is old enough to, if they choose to.
And the biggest difference that we had since first semester last year was this was all federally covered at that time, and that drastically changed on the second semester.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Webster?
Go ahead.
Wasn't it up to so many days that they were eligible for? Like they only got so many days, and if they were quarantined more than that,
So
they were
initially, I believe it was
10 days.
10
wasn't it?
days, and then we extended that again through 10 days the second semester. So yes, if somebody would have been quarantined multiple times last year, they would have used some of their days as well. I did want to just clarify, because I spoke there about children being vaccinated at open house. The parent does have to be present, and it's not, people are not going up to them and saying, hey, come get your, get your vaccine. They're sitting there. If somebody wants to, it's an opportunity. If they don't want to, they're not getting pressure.
And where I work, we used to have the same policy. This year it was discontinued, and you have to use your PTO if you're quarantined to get sick. So they got gotten away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, and then Mr. Webster, discuss the return to learn plan again.
So obviously, just until we get through this, which hopefully sooner than later, monthly, I plan on updating you guys on the return to school plan. Yesterday, the document I gave you guys earlier, Desi did send out a clarification for us just to try and simplify things. Obviously, there's verbiage behind it. Everything that they sent out does fit in line with what we have in our plan. So I still do believe that our plan is adequate within what we've established. Obviously, I guess it was 2 weeks ago we had moved from level 1 green to level 2 yellow with where the county is at. I still stand strongly to the fact that putting 2,000 people in a building for the first time, I think if we can survive the first 14 days, I really believe as a district we'll be in a better place to reevaluate and see if we can take the mask off. Reality of it is, I don't like wearing the mask either, but I do want to do what's safe. I know it's debatable, but what I believe is safest for the kids and what I believe is safest for our adults. With that being said, if we get those 14 days knocked out of the way, we can reevaluate and see where things are.
And that's the key to this. I mean, it's basically like last year, I believe we went the whole semester. So in this, we're trying to shorten it down so that we are not overreactive for a whole extended period of time.
Correct. Last year we went the entire year.
Correct.
And I just for the sake of doing it, I did go back. Last year when the decision was made to put masks on staff and students, there were 21 cases in the county. There's somewhere around, and tell me if I'm wrong, there's somewhere around 240 cases right now.
There's 28 new cases a day. That's what we're getting right now. So I think whenever you guys were putting them in, they were getting about 21 cases a day. So we're still kind of over that threshold when you guys put it in.
Yeah. No, but I mean last year when we put it in, there were only 21 total cases in the
cases.
county.
Okay. All right, on to action topics. So, the board resolution on the COVID leave has expired as of June 30th. So as of now, Congress continues to not extend the federal leave mandate under Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, and surrounding districts are not extending. So, I don't know if you want to take a look at that sheet, but I think it's the same sheet you already showed us, right? So we're going to have to make a decision on this. So what I'd like to do is entertain a motion.
You have to make a motion.
Right.
So, I mean, really, this one, you could,
so, yeah, I know, it's different.
I started to say this one, I think you can.
So our current policy, the current practice did expire on June 31st of the year. So we have nothing in place right now either way.
So since nothing's in place, we can make a motion either way. I make a motion that we do not extend the COVID relief leave.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so it passes. All right, and next is to approve the board tuition rate for 2021-2022. According to the calculation formula, our tuition is $6,276.15 for the 21-22 school year. And Mr. Webster is going to recommend to approve that. Got anything, I don't know if you want to add or?
Essentially, that's what it costs. That's what the school is reimbursed for a student anyway. So we're just saying if you do not live in our district, but you want your student to attend here, we're going to charge you what the state would give us for that student.
Yep. Okay.
Since we won't receive it if you don't live here.
Sure. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to set tuition rate $62.76.15 for the 21-22 year.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Got a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. Very specific. Okay, and then next is the budget revision number 1 for the 21-22 school year.
That was quick, Webster.
Yeah, didn't take long to make a revision. No, as you'll see in there, it's just coding stuff. We're just switching some codes of where money came from to make sure they came out of the right accounts.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget revision number 1.
Make a motion to approve the budget.
Okay, got a motion? And a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Superintendent's report.
So, are they freezing? The good things listed on there, last Thursday and Friday, we did our new staff Capturing Kids' Hearts training. So all new staff was there. Last year, since we did not do that due to COVID, we had those people there as well. So we had a great turnout. It was a great time for a lot of new administrators in the district, as well as a lot of new teachers in the district, to get together, start building some relationships, and start talking about the things that we want to do for kids when they get in our buildings. So it was a really good time. So I wanted to mention that. First day with teachers was yesterday. We thought that was a very positive day. I think we got a lot accomplished, and we did kind of unveil our new fight song. So I did a lot of digging and looking into things and talking with some people from the community that I know that have been here for a very long time. Best I could find is back in like the 50s that St. James had a fight song they used. I believe in talking with some people, they said it was like 4 pages long, and I've been unable to track that down. And I think since I've been in school here, we've always just used Notre Dame's. And I thought it was time for us to give ourselves an identity. So Mr. Limback and his band put something together for us, and we unveiled it at the back to school, and I think it was really awesome. So I'd like to commend them again for doing that. Moving into the report, obviously since children aren't here and we haven't started doing too much, there's not much to talk about. Just something to report on. With DESE, they want us to make sure that any of our employees that drive the school vans with children in it have a Class E license. So that's something that we have sent out to all of our coaches or sponsors that move kids around in those vans. We've told them once school starts, if they don't have that Class E, they can't transport kids in those vehicles. To my knowledge, people have been coming in right and left and doing that. It is only like $20 to get that done, so I did say that since you're doing the district a favor, saving us on transportation of using a bus, that the district would pick up that fee. So I think people were like, hey, why not? Let's do it, because it's better than riding on a school bus anyway. So our staff's been working on getting that done. Yeah, exactly. So it does save the district money. That's why our vans are very equitable to us. Since we don't own our own buses, it's cheaper to put people on a bus or on a van than a bus. Updates as we get into things, you can see here in the nutrition report, free breakfast and lunch has been extended through this school year for all students, which is a big deal for our kids. As a district, we still want to encourage our families to fill out the free and reduced form. What people don't realize, even if they know they make enough money not to qualify, the state looks at the total number that are filled out versus the percentage of people that are. So it truly does help the district for people to fill it out, even if they don't know that they know they're not going to qualify. Where some people just are hesitant to fill it out because they go, I make too much, I know I'm not going to qualify. But it does help the district the more percentage of people that fill it out. So we just want to, even though it is free this year, for the future, we would encourage if people would do that for us. We are currently still fine-tuning the plan for student meals if children are quarantined or if children choose our virtual option. We do plan to provide meals for those kids again this year if they're willing to come up and get them. The hope is that the nutrition center will be ready to go by September. They've built a room in there where they can, well, they haven't built it. There's a room in there that they'll be able to make the food, bag it up, and that way it's not kind of traffic jamming up one of the schools that's a little bit further off. People can go straight in there, get their food, and go on their merry way. Updates on facilities. Gym floor tear out is almost complete. When I say almost complete, like there was 5 feet in the corner that was left. I showed you guys a picture of what it should look like in a couple weeks. Today, as one guy was tearing out in the corner finishing up, they'd already started laying it down in the middle, so it is underway. One thing that I would like to ask of the board, I would like to put a letter together and have every board member, myself, and Dr. Williams just have a chance to write something. So in a generation from here when we're all gone, when that floor does get torn up, that we can say something positive about the school and let them know why was the floor tore up, where does it look, you know, like let's just leave them something so when we're all gone, the next time they do this, that they can see it. And hopefully we don't have another flood next year and
full
have
generation,
to take our letter up. Correct. So the hope is this time that it lasts a little bit longer. Buildings are ready to go for the school year. They've done a great job at getting things done. Obviously, if you've driven by the high school, you've seen a lot of landscaping that got finished up this summer. That was a part of the construction project that they just got to. Here is one that we are going to have some serious conversations about pretty quick. I was contacted yesterday by GRP, which obviously we're under contract to do our roofing work with, that's supposed to start, or roofing and lighting projects with, that's supposed to start in October. They notified me yesterday that there is a FEMA grant that is 100% reimbursable. This FEMA grant is different than most FEMA grants in the fact they actually give you 50% of the money up front. With that, the caveat is you have to put in a UV air purification system. What that is it's a UV that goes up in your HVAC system, and any bacteria, virus, or anything that goes through that, the UV light's supposed to kill it. Due to the fact that it is free to us if we are approved for the FEMA grant, I think that we should have some serious conversation about it pretty quick. The catch to it is the FEMA grant is due September 30th. So this is something, the turnaround on this is going to be pretty quick. When GRP presented the idea to me, they had said that it's going to be, after it's an expensive project, it would be about $400,000 for the district. The turnaround time that FEMA is saying they'll get the money back to you is within 90 days. So we would have to front 50% of that up front, but we would be reimbursed with it within 90 days. So if you guys would like to have some discussion on that, I would be happy to.
You want to have that discussion
We can.
now, or
We can, or we can wait.
it's up to you? It's your report.
If you guys have some initial questions, go ahead and ask them now, so I can ask if it's something worth pursuing, and I can ask GRP the next time I talk to them.
My only question is how quickly will FEMA respond to our grant application? So the application's due September 30th. How quickly do they respond to that?
He made it sound like he thought when they were already taking our tiles down to do the lights that they'd be able to do it. To the conversation that we had, he said that this grant's out there. They're begging people to fill it out. Nobody's filling it out. He said hospitals have utilized it, obviously. So just so you know the long-term effect of this, obviously those lights go bad eventually, those UV lights. He said it's about, once you get the equipment up there, it's about $90 a light. In those hospitals that keep lights on every single day of the year, 24 hours a day, he said they last about 2 years. The life expectancy, they're telling schools that they last, it should last 4 to 5 years. Within that, in 4 to 5 years, then we would have to make a decision. Do we want to start replacing them as they go bad or not? That would be a decision we could make in 4 or 5 years, though. Any other questions that you guys would like me to ask GRP?
Is it one of those, like, how quick, whose grant writing would that be?
Um,
I mean,
Good question. So within that, there was another company that reached out to me actually about this. Part of their deal was just pick us to do the project and we'll write the grant for you because we've already written it for this many schools. Sure. I don't know if GRP is taking that approach as well. My guess is they are because he was aware of the other company that I was talking about. So my guess is they've written it for some other schools so they already have the verbiage that's going to get passed. Okay. If not, Dr. Williams and myself are going to flat get busy here pretty quick.
okay. And that was my one question, is if we wait till our next board meeting, will that be enough time still to?
Correct. If this is something we actively pursue, it might be something that I ask you guys to get together on a little bit earlier, or if everybody individually feels like it's something I can have it ready to go, and then if you say, no, we don't want to do it, we just don't submit it. If I see some head nods tonight, we're going to proceed like we're doing it, and then next meeting, if you guys say, no, we're not, then we throw it away. If you choose to do it, then we can go ahead and submit.
Just quick food for thought. I think we have like some free grant writing with MRPC, if I remember right. I thought I remember a discussion with that. But MRPC and the Merrimack Regional Planning, I think we have like 10 hours or something like that that's given to us. But that may be wrong.
Any other questions? Activities report. Fall sports or practices are underway. Week 1, football against Salem was canceled. I'm sure you guys saw that by now. We have found a replacement. California will be coming to us on Friday night. Monday for the JV game, we'll be headed to California. At this point, the tailgate is still a go. When I submitted this report, I didn't know if it would be a go because we didn't have a week 1 opponent. Obviously now we do have an opponent, so at this time we're still moving forward with the tailgate party. And that's all I have for the report.
Okay.
Financial statement is the next thing you guys will see on there. As you go through, the first part obviously is our revenues, the money that has come in. At this point, we have had more money coming in than we did at this point last year. A lot of that is due to tax money that's coming in. As you look at expenses, you can see at the bottom where we are this year in regards to last year. Right now, we have spent a little bit more money than we did. We've spent 2.04% of the budget at this point. Last year, we were at 1.69. That is to be expected due to the fact that last year everything was froze at this time. So there were a lot of things that we needed to get caught up on. But obviously, when you're only looking at 2%, we're doing pretty good right now. Next month, you'll obviously see that number jump up quite a bit because people are here and people ordered things. So right now, still not too much going on with finances. Dr. Williams, the building report.
So as you go through the building report, that first page with the enrollment and attendance, that is our projected enrollment as of last Wednesday. Those numbers are constantly changing as people come in or leave the district. Currently, we do still have several students who have not fully enrolled, and so we are working with those families to make sure that we get them all enrolled before we start school next week as much as possible. As far as how many of our students are electing for virtual learning at this point, we have 10 who have applied and been approved at the elementary, 4 at the middle school, and 5 at the high school who have applied and been approved. I put some good things on there. We did have our leadership blueprint, which was a really good training day on July 30th to really get us all as a district administrative team together. We have met with Discovery Schools and Great Circles and are working on how do we collaborate more efficiently for our students and other collaborative opportunities for teachers as well. Our instructional coaches, technology team, and Ms. Carrier have really worked hard to get things together for our new teachers training, and it really went very smoothly, and the technology days were great as well. And then our custodial staff, we just need to kind of do a shout out to them because they really pulled together to get the buildings and everything done around all of the things that have been going on this summer. So they've just done a phenomenal job. With our academic information, we have started our meetings to talk about our math curriculum review process. We met with middle school today, tomorrow, and Friday we're meeting with the other 2 buildings. And you can see I gave you the virtual learning numbers. They've jumped up just a little bit since when I did the report. We do have some new guidelines impacting special education in 504 meetings. I've shared that with the special education committee. We just put in some procedures just to make sure that we, when we get into those situations, that we are all acting in the same way and have the same consistency. And so I put a copy of those there for you. When we went to our legal training this year, they did talk about Title IX review. There was a few updates, a few changes where they've expanded some of the definitions for Title IX. So I did update the document from last year to share with you in an email. And then if you would like formal training, just please let Mr. Willis or myself know, and we can arrange that. Beyond that, you have the board or the building reports. I know that everyone is really working hard to get everyone back to school. We're looking forward to having the kids here. You know, it's that time of year when you're so excited and just can't wait to see your kids, and the classrooms are coming together. So as you look at Lucy James's elementary report, that's what you're seeing there. Looking forward to the kids coming back, the buildings getting together. And we have open house on the 19th. With the middle school, PLC support team met on August 10th. They're starting to really look at some different strategies on how to really build our instructional strategies and looking at our Tier 1, which is our instruction we give to everyone, and then how do we use that to really make data-based decisions as we move forward with students. Our teachers are busy completing their required PD that they have to complete every year. Tomorrow we have Ken Williams coming in. He's going to be a keynote speaker. And we already talked about CKH. And then at John F. Hodge, again, just kind of that reiteration. We are so excited to have our kids coming back and getting ready for that. And then you can see that we did have some fall activities coming up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Williams. The next part that I just have under superintendent's report is the annual secretary to the board report. That's just notifying you guys that we have submitted that to DESE. What the secretary report is just a budget breakdown for the school year. So just notifying you that we have met compliancy with that. MSBA report, there's a lot going on in MSBAs, I'm sure you can imagine. Some of the top things that they were discussing was internet access across the state. They're urging communities to try and find what their need is and find out if there are grants out there, if schools and communities can pair together, or if there are ways that we can just help the state of Missouri all have internet. Teacher shortage across the state has reached an alarming rate. I cannot imagine why, but I guess people are not going into the educational field right now. So they have, DESE, has started a recruitment and retention plan. I know we've talked about that the last couple meetings. Dr. Williams gave you guys an update on that earlier, discussing how we've been very proactive with that. Guys, I can't tell you how awesome it would be if we can get a college to let us hold a dual credit class here in which we can be the host to other school districts. Because the reality of it is, not only can we grow ours, but then when other school districts start bringing their kids here, they can see the awesome things that we're doing, and that opens up the door 4 years from there when they graduate and they say, hey, I was at St. James, I met this person, I know this person, maybe I'll apply there. Do they stay here forever? I don't know, but it gives us a chance. So those are exciting things that she's been working on, and I'm very hopeful that it's going to continue moving in the right way. The last thing that they've talked about was just the MSBA conference, which I know you guys are all aware of. It's November 5th through 7th in Kansas City. So that's really the 3 big highlights that they had on the MSBA report. And that does it for the superintendent's report.
All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to go to closed session. Got a motion, a second? Second? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, closed session. Thank you all for coming. We greatly appreciate it.